Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of JBS Stories of Innovation. Today, our topic is Beyond Borders and how AI is rewriting insurance operations, where we'll talk about one of the biggest challenges in the US market, especially what insurers face, and it's their paper problem. And with me is a very young, dynamic salesperson who's with JBS, and he is a business development executive, an AI specialist, Syed Sannan Ali. Welcome, Sannan.
Thank you.
It's really good to have this opportunity to talk to you. Firstly, I think the thing that fascinates me most about you is how you, at such a young age, have gotten to the point where you are. So just tell me a bit about yourself, a little about your story, before we delve into the North American problems.
Absolutely. My name is Syed Sannan Ali, like you mentioned. I did my undergrad with software engineering as my main discipline. And then I have been traditionally in sales throughout my career. I started off with aviation and software development. And here I am at JBS as a business development executive, 2.5 years down my career, finding myself not only speaking to business professionals within the insurance industry, but trying to tackle some of their biggest problems as well.
And what role do you think young people play in this global transformation? Before we get into the subject of insurance, I really want to understand how this motivates you
Something that really speaks volumes to, I believe, most young-minded individuals is that not only are we more solution-oriented, but at the same time, because the world has changed so much, global boundaries aren't the same way for us as they might have been for older business processes. And so when it comes to identifying problems and trying to solve them, borders are not of limitations.
Yeah.
And it's very solution-oriented mindset. And just the energy to be able to, not only talk to these people, but try and deeply understand where, these bottlenecks within all sorts of industries lie, and how, we can leverage AI or other tools in general to not only tackle them, but solve those problems.
Yeah.
I feel like young-minded individuals are really good at solving such problems.
And we will talk a lot more about that. But tell me, why did you choose insurance as the sector that you felt that you could add most value to?
It's a funny journey. I had no idea about the insurance industry. Let's be real. I have my background in aviation and software engineering. Insurance seemed so far away, right? But then I started having these conversations with these insurers throughout the US and Canada, and it became so evident that even gigantic industries that are so mission critical and so heavily regulated could still be so inefficient in their business processes. And once I identified that, it generally became a passion to try and honestly solve not only these issues for the US economy, but generally for all other industries as well.
So when you speak to North American insurers, what's that one big challenge that keeps coming up repetitively?
It's paper. It's definitely paper. Sometimes it's paper even when they don't call it paper.
Yeah.
But it's PDFs, it's fragmented data, it's text, it's emails, it's photos, and it's just when you break it down, it's just unstructured data.
Yeah.
We talk about how data is the new oil and stuff, but without actually having a centralized system to not only be able to understand that data, there's not much that you can do with it.
Yeah.
And so, yes, the paper problem is, I would say, the biggest pain point that I've found to be in the industry.
Why do you think this digital transformation has not been able to solve these problems so far? And why does this remain the biggest challenge?
That's a very interesting question. You would imagine, technology has come so far that these problems would not only have been solved a long time ago, but we'd moved past them. But the truth about the insurance industry and most other industries is that we're still stuck in a lot of legacy software, which really causes incompatibilities. People make take a lot of steps towards innovation, but it generally happens on the forefront. So you see new portals popping up, you see people investing in their websites, and all of that is great for customer interactions. But the back office somehow has just stayed the same. It's still on PDFs and Excel sheets. And I would also like to argue that AI has a connotation to it that it's meant to replace humans, or
Yes.
Adopting AI has had a lot of challenges to itself.
Correct.
And previously it might have been a costly solution. It might have had a lot of risks associated to it. But today, as I like to tell all of my clients as well, is that the purpose of AI is not to replace, it's to enhance. And that's where we are today, that it's not only a tool for building efficiency, but it's also a cost-effective solution.
Yeah. So what I find very strange, Sannan, is that the technology, the origin of technology, is normally that part of the world. Why isn't the solution for this problem coming from that part of the world? And what role is Pakistan playing in sort of being the automation hub to solve the insurance problem for the US market?
The Pakistani market is quite unique in the sense that we not only have very capable engineers who are dedicating time to solve these problems, but at the same time, it's also cost efficient. And so the hunger that I've seen the Pakistani market have, where whenever they listen to a problem, their mindset goes to how they could solve that problem in a matter of weeks rather than quarters. And at the same time, it's a lot more real world experience that have now come under the belt of these Pakistani engineers. So it's not just they're not just learning about AI academically, but they've been building real world use cases. They understand compliance and regulatory laws. They understand the inefficiencies of documentations and the errors that could still be present, because no business works at 100% efficiency. And so I believe that it's a combination of real world experience, intelligent engineers, and the fact that it's cost effective. That that this solution is not only coming from Pakistan, but we're in a sense trying to pioneer it.
So you speak to insurers every day in the US, right? When you're talking to them, what do you think is going on in the back of their head? What is surprising them the most when you are having that conversation?
I think the thing that generally surprises them the most is that it's not outsourcing, right? So when we build out these AI solutions for these clients within the insurance space, they generally a lot of companies, I'm sorry I'm going off track, but a lot of companies in the US are already accustomed to hiring offshore staff. So may it be from India, Pakistan, Philippines, all over the world. And then we present automated solutions that don't just shift the workload from one place to another. It actually reduces it, completes it. And so one, the fact that these systems actually work, and second, how fast they work, really not only shocks but really intrigues these insurers within the North American market.
So before we get into the solution, talk to me about what are the sort of processes that these insurance companies have in the back office that are their biggest nightmare. How do they, what is it that they're going through on a daily basis?
So we've talked about back office and admin a lot, but the problem isn't just limited to them. So just to give you an idea, we were going through a McKinsey study, and it told us that agents within the insurance space spend only about 35% of their day actually doing sales tasks. And the rest of their time goes into filling out forms, trying to do all these admin tasks that have become a very mundane part of their day-to-day. And so maybe processes of underwriting or claims, they're all very not only paper heavy, which requires them to do a lot of manual reviews. But at the same time, it's tedious because they have to take information from one place and then feed it into all these different portals and sources, their CRMs. And so it's very mundane tasks that are slowing down these insurance processes and have been slowing them down for a long time. And the really shocking part about this is they know that this is a problem, they just feel stuck in it.
Yeah. And how do you think AI is helping them solve the problem? Like, what's the quick fix without going through a complete system overhaul?
Right. So I believe the easiest fruit to grab is all this fragmented data, correct? And so when these insurers they want to take a step towards AI or innovation, the first thing that I generally recommend is to start with places that they feel the most inefficiencies lie, where the most paper problem might exist. May it be underwriting for them or compliance. Those fields could change from agency to agency, but it's generally around data and how these AI automated systems are not only able to process data, but help them recognize flags, risk indicators automatically, and then being able to give them the time to actually make the decisions that they were hired to make, and not having to waste time just pouring through hundreds of pages of documents.
Yeah. So talk me through a solution. What do you do when you're talking to these customers? How do you go about identifying their problem and then the solution that you're offering? And also, what is your average turnaround time to offer that solution, or is that a client-based thing?
So most of the times I find myself taking on the role of an AI consultant, where when we open these conversations with these insurance companies, the first thing we try and ask them is to align themselves. I have this activity where I show them all these different processes where we've been able to identify very obvious bottlenecks, and then they just try and figure out which ones are really bugging them in particular. And then we try and understand how the process works for them. Because even if we talk about, let's say, processes that are standard, for example, renewals, right? The way that one company handles renewals might be completely different from how another company does. And so it's a lot about trying to understand exactly how their process works and places where AI could be the most efficient for them. It's usually document processing, data migration. It's a lot of making sure that they don't have to spend time doing manual entries everywhere. And the fact that AI can now not only understand data, but then very efficiently transfer it from one place to another.
Do you think because they are very AI literate people that you're talking to, it's strange that they haven't adopted the technology, but do you think they're very intrigued when they're having these conversations with you?
It's a combination of both intriguement and curiosity, I would say. Even though we believe that these customers should be pioneering in artificial intelligence, most of these insurance companies that we talk to have been in business for the last 50, 60 years. And so one thing that really slows down these automation first mindset is the phrase that's not how we used to do it, or that's not how we're used to doing it. And so the first step, I feel like, when it comes to AI adoption, and if you want to pioneer AI adoption across any industry, is to understand exactly how they are doing it, and then sympathize with their emotional connection to how they've been doing business, and making sure that they still get to do what really entrusts them, which is the decision making, which is the building the case, talking to the clients. You don't want to replace what people are doing. You just want to give them operational efficiency and just the ability to do what they do better. And that's how we're taking it.
So when we were talking earlier, I believe you guys have sort of solved over 60 to 70 insurance problems in the North American market. Just, you don't have to give me any sort of specific names, but talk me through how you go about solving their problem and some real use case that you've actually
I was
resolved?
right. I was talking about renewals, and
Yeah.
I'd love to tackle renewals. I believe it's one of the most critical things when it comes to insurance companies. It's how they keep their people within their book of business. And unfortunately, with all of these different, CRM systems and AMS systems, we talk about Applied Epic and Hawksoft and Agency Zoom and whatnot.
Yeah.
A lot of these systems do exist where they help them manage their clients in general, but none of them are really helping them stay on top of their renewals, particularly. And when we talk to these, personal lines companies that are doing all of these personal life and personal auto insurances, they have a huge volume of clients with them. And so we've been able to build out systems that help them not only stay on top of their renewals, but we've been able to establish communication channels 90 days, 60 days, 30 days before the renewal is due, so that both the insurance company realizes that this client's renewal is due, and then the client themselves receive email or text notifications letting them know that if anything has changed, that their company is not only involved in the process of getting them the best deal possible, but is actually investing into it actively. And so it's about bridging the gap between the clients and the insurance companies themselves as well, and then trying to tackle some of these problems head on.
You're talking about bridging the gap. I just want to know, how does it make you feel as an individual and being such a young person that you are playing such a critical role in bridging that gap? What kind of personal achievement do you feel? And
To be honest, it's a lot of gratitude.
Yeah.
Not only being able to have these conversations with business leaders across North America, but then actually being able to have conversations where they're not only interested but they value your opinion. And I feel like a lot of my experience and a lot of my talking points come from the insurance industry themselves. And so, because I've been able to have so many conversations, I've been able to learn so much about the
Yeah.
insurance space. I feel like now I'm able to talk to them in their own language.
Yeah.
And that, I believe, really helps them connect. For me personally, it's very, how do I put this, very humbling to be able to do that at this age.
And what do you think you've learned the most out of talking to these people?
Everyone really truly does care about their own business, right?
Yeah.
Everyone generally cares about the way that they're doing business, how they want to move their businesses towards the future. And now, because there's such conversations around AI and how it's the next step, everyone wants to, be the first to take those steps. It's just that they're very overwhelmed themselves, as into trying and understand how AI could not only be part of their system, but be part of their system in a way that they could actually see a return on their investment.
Yeah.
And so when we, particularly myself, I've come to notice that when you be honest with them and you actually listen to their problems, it builds trust a lot faster.
Yeah.
And so if a place doesn't require AI for building efficiency, I'll say it to their face. I'll let them know that this place where they might have an idea where AI could fit. If it generally doesn't, I'd let them know, and I'd tell them that this problem could be solved much more efficiently with another route. And so I feel like it's a lot of building trust.
Yeah.
It's a lot of shaking hands, and it's a lot of listening that gets you there.
Yeah, I recently heard you talk about listening and the art of listening. I think it was really interesting because that is one of the key elements, I think, in good sort of conversation that you can have with your clients. Because once they know and they feel that you are empathetic towards them, they are more sort of inclined towards having that conversation with you. So, what's next for you? Do you want to sort of continue within the insurance industry, or do you think you can apply similar kind of solutions to other industries? Where do you think you want to take it from here?
Oh, absolutely. Firstly, to tackle your question, particularly for me, I think insurance might be a space I might be sticking to for a while. But just to give you a brief understanding, I have my fellows up at JBS Americas in Europe. We're tackling problems not just to the insurance space. We're tackling, logistics, trucking, e-commerce, other major industries around the world. And the processes are relatively similar. The problems are relatively similar. Again, we've talked about this before, but legacy systems, fragmented data, trying to make sense of all of the data that they've built over time. These problems are not specific to any one industry, and so I feel like there's a lot of room to not only expand, but if anyone is interested, feel free to have conversations with our consultants. They're really good at what they do, and they have a very, I would say, a very bright mindset upon AI adoption and real world scenarios.
Yeah. And do you plan to go beyond the North American market? Are you going to get into the European market? Because I'm sure they have similar challenges.
100%.
Yeah.
It's a journey, perhaps
Yes.
for myself as well. I'm trying to, at the same time, when we think about expanding our regions, you also want to make sure that the regions that you are giving your time
Yes.
to, you can be honest with them first.
Yes.
And so while Europe is right around the corner, we are trying to get a foothold within the North American market first.
Yeah.
But Europe's right behind.
It's been absolutely fascinating talking to you, Sannan, and really good to know and get the insight of how you guys are solving the North American insurance problem, and just sitting here in Pakistan and doing that so brilliantly. So, any last words you want to leave us with?
Thank you so much, firstly, for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. To conclude, I would just say that, as the world evolves and AI becomes the next, thing that everyone's chasing, feel free to take a step back, understand exactly how AI could benefit your industry, and no need to rush head in. Automations that generate results often start with very small, boring problems, but those boring problems are the ones that actually curate real-world results.
Yeah.
And so feel free to jump into AI, automations, and all these steps, but be smart about it.
And I think this is very important, that not to rush into decisions, because that's where most people are going wrong. Thank you very much, and really good to have you with us today.
It's an absolute
Thank you.
pleasure. Thank you.